Hi guys, it is Alexis again, and I am going to read chapter 3 of Heaven is Real, and also 4 and probably 5, maybe 6, because they're all very short chapters. Okay, don't forget to like and subscribe so I can continue to do more videos. So, chapter 3 is called Colton Toughs It Out. The next month, the cast came off, the cancer scare and kidney stones behind us. I spent a couple of months learning to walk again, first with a walking cast, then with a pretty nasty limp. Slowly working on my affluent muscles back to health again. By February 1st, finally achieved some independence just in time for a district board meeting of our church demonstration in Greeley, Colorado, set for the first week of March. You need to get away, Sojay told me a couple of weeks before the board meeting. Just get away and have a little fun. Now here we were at the Butterfly Pavilion. A monarch butterfly fluttered past. Its bright orange wings set amid in black like stained glass. I breathed a prayer of thanks that our trip that had happened at all. 2 days before, on Thursday, Colton had began telling Sojay that his stomach hurt. I was already in Greeley, and at the time Sojay was teaching a Title I class at Imperla High School. Not wanting to put the school to the expense of a substitute, she asked our good friend Nora Dammit if she could watch Colton at her home so that Sojay could go to work. Norma, who was like a favorite aunt to our kids, immediately said yes. But at midday, Sojay's cell phone rang. It was Norma. Colton's condition had taken a nosedive. He had fever, chills, and for most of the morning had lain nearly motionless on Norma's couch, wrapped in a blanket. He said he's freezing, but he's sweating like crazy, Norma said, clearly concerned. But she said Colton's forehead was covered in in beads of sweat as big as a teardrop. Norma's husband, Brian, had come home, taken one look inside. Colton was sick enough that he should go to the emergency room. So Jack called me in Greeley with the news, and just like that, I saw our trip to celebrate the end of a string of injury and illness being canceled by illness. Sojay checked out of work early, scooped the Colton from Norma's house, and took him to the doctor, who revealed that a stomach flu was working its way around town. Thought that night our trip remained up in the air, separately in Greeley and Imperla. Sojay and I prayed that Colton would feel better enough to make the trip, and by morning we got our answer, yes. During the night, Colton's fever broke, and by afternoon on Friday he was his old self again. Sojay called to tell me, we're on our way. Now at the Butterfly Pavilion, Sojay checked her watch. We were scheduled to meet Steve Wilson, the pastor of Greeley Mescaline Church, and his wife Rebecca for dinner that evening. The kids still wanted to get in a swim at the hotel pool. There was zero chance of them swimming in the Imperla in March, so this was a rare opportunity. Okay, we should probably head back to the hotel, Sojay said. I looked at her and then at Colton. Hey, bud, it's time to go. Are you still sure you don't want to hold Rosie? I said, last chance to get a sticker. What do you think? Emotions played over Colton's face like sunshine and clouds in a fast-moving weather front. By now, even his big sister had been ribbling him a little about being afraid as I watched Colton narrowing his eyes and set his jaw. He wanted that sticker. Okay, I'll hold her, he said, but just for a little bit. Okay, he could change his mind. We all trooped back into the crawl and see, and I Cornell, the keeper. This is Colton, and he wants to give it a try, I said. The keeper smiled and bent down. Okay, Colton, are you ready? Stiff as a board, our son held out his hand. I bent over and cradled it in my own. Now, this is super easy, Colton, the keeper said. Just hold your hand out flat and still. Rosie's very gentle. She won't hurt you. The keeper raised his hand, and Rosie slid over to Colton's hand and back to the keeper's waiting hand on the other side. Never even slowed down. We all broke into cheers and clapped for Colton as the keeper handed him his sticker. He had faced his fear. It was a big victory for him. The moment seemed like icing on the cake of a perfect day. As we left the Butterfly Pavilion, I reflected back over the past several months. It was hard to believe that the broken leg, the kidney stones, the lost work, the financial stress, 3 surgeries, and the cancer scare had all happened in half a year's time. In that moment, I realized for the first time that I had been feeling like I'd been in a fight. For months, I had my guard up, waiting for the next punch life could throw. Sorry. I felt like completely relaxed for the first time since the previous summer. If I'd let my mind roll with that boxing metaphor just a little longer, I might have been following its logic. One sec. Sorry, guys. Okay. And usually the knockout punch is one they didn't see. And that is the end of chapter 3. Now on to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. So I'm going to read. Chapter 4 is called Smoke Signals. Later that evening, with a swim under their belts, Cassie and Colton sat in a big round booth at the old Chicago restaurant in Greeley, Colorado, coloring happily while Soja and I chatted with Pastor Steve. Wilson and his wife, Rebecca, had already chowed down on some terrific Italian food, including the usual kids' favorite, pizza, spaghetti, and garlic bread. Steve was senior pastor of a church of between 1,500 and 2,000 people, nearly as many as lived in our hometown, and Pearl. It was a chance for Soja and me to get to know another pastor in our district and to get some ideas on how other pastors do ministry. We planned to visit Steve's church, Greeley, Wesleyan, the next day. Soja especially wanted to get a look at how the church's Sunday morning children program worked. Rebecca dived her time between the grown-ups conversation and coloring with the kids. "Wow, Colton, you're doing a really good job coloring that pizza," she said. Colton offered a thin, polite smile, but had fallen unusually quiet. Then a few minutes later, he said, "Mommy, my tummy hurts." Soja and I exchanged a glance. Was it the stomach flu coming back? Soja laid the back of her hand against Colton's cheek and shook her head. "You don't feel hot, hon?" "I think I'm going to throw up," Colton said. "I don't feel so good either, Mommy," Cassie said. We figured it was something they ate. With both kids feeling under the weather, we ended our dinner early, said goodbye to the Wilsons, and headed back to the hotel, which was just across the parking lot from the restaurant. As soon as we got to the door to our open room, Colton predicted came true. He upchucked, beginning on the carpet and ending as Soja whisked him into the tiny bathroom in the toilet. Standing in the doorway, I watched Colton's small form bend over and convulsing. This didn't seem like any kind of food poisoning. Gotta be that stomach flu, I thought. Great. That was how the evening began. It continued with Colton throwing up every 30 minutes like clockwork. Between times, Soja sat in an upholstered side chair with Colton on her lap, keeping the broom's ice bucket within reach in case she could make it to the bathroom. About 2 hours into the cycle, another kid joined the party. As Colton was in the bathroom, having into the toilet with Soja kneeling beside him, a steady hand on his back. Casey ran in and threw up in the tub. "Todd," Soja called. "I need a little help in here." Great, I thought. Now they both have it. Or did they? After we were able to move both kids back to the bedroom, Soja and I put our heads together. Colton had seen that stomach flu the day before, and all day along at the butterfly pavilion. He was his normal self, completely happy, except for the stain of holding Rosie. Get that sticker. Casey had held Rosie too. Could Gotham translate trigger a case of double upchuck? No, dummy, I told herself, and pushed the thought aside. Did the kids eat the same thing at the restaurant? I asked Soja, who by then was lying on one of the double beds with one arm around each of our two green of the gills kids. She looked at the ceiling and thought for a moment. I think they both had some pizza. But we all had that pizza, I think. I think it's that flu. Colton probably wasn't over it quite yet, and he passed it along to Casey before we got here. The doctor said it was pretty contagious. No matter what, it looked like our relaxing post-terminal celebration trip was abruptly coming to an end, and a few minutes later, I heard that the magic words that seemed to confine my thoughts. "Mommy, I feel like I'm going to throw up again." So I snatched up Cole and hushed him to the toilet, just in the nick of time. When the pink light of dawn began peeking through the curtains the next morning, Soja was still awake. We agreed that at least one of us should still go visit Greenlee Messline and get some large church ministry knowledge we could explore to Pearl, so I tried to get at least a little sleep. That left Soja with nursing duties, which included an almost hourly trek back and forth to the bathroom with Colton. Casey had gotten sick only one other time during the night, but whatever this bug was, it seemed to have lashed onto our little boy's innards and dug in deep. We checked out the hotel early and drove over to the Greenlee home of Phil and Betty Lou Harris, and our close friends and also superintendents for the Wesley Church District that include all Colorado in Nebraska. The original plan that had been that our two families would attend the Wilson Church together that morning now thought with a pair of sick kids, we decided that Soja would stay at the Harrisons' home. Better Lou, sweet lady that she is, volunteered to stay home and assist. When I got back from the church just after lunch, Soja gave me the status report. Casey was feeling a lot better. She had been able to eat a little something, keep it down, but Colton continued to vomit on a clockwork basis and had been unable to hold anything down. Colton was in the Harris's living room, huddled in the corner of the huge couch on top of a blanket drop cloth with a bucket standing nearby just in case. I walked over and sat down beside him. Hey, buddy. Not doing so great, huh? Colton slowly shook his head, and tears welled up in his eyes. I might have been in my 30s, but over the last few months, I learned only too well what it was like to feel so sick and miserable that you just wanted to cry. My heart burned for my son. Come here, I said. I pulled him into my lap and looked into his little round face. His eyes usually sparkled and played full and looked flat and weak. Phil walked over and sat down beside me and reviewed the symptoms: abdominal pain, profuse vomiting, a fever that had come up and down. Could it be the appendicitis? I thought about it for a moment. That was certainly a family history. My uncle's appendix had burst, and I had a weak case of appendix in college during the time Soja and I were dating. Also, Soja had her appendix out when she was in 2nd grade, but the circumstances here didn't seem to fit the bill. The doctor in Pearl had diagnosed him with the stomach flu, and if it was appendix, there would be no reason Casey would be sick too. We spent Sunday night with the Harrises in Greeley. By morning, Casey had completely recovered, but Colton had spent a second night throwing up. As we packed our duffel bags and headed outside to load up the expedition, Phil gazed at Colton, cradled in Soja's arms. He looks pretty sick to me, Todd. Maybe you should take him to the hospital here. Soja and I had discussed that option. We had sat in an emergency room waiting area for a sick kid before, and our experience was that we could probably make the 3-hour drive back to Imperial before we would be seen in the emergency room of a Metro Denver hospital. So instead, we called ahead to Imperial and made an appointment with our regular family doctor, the one Colton had seen the previous Friday. I explained our reasoning to Phil. He said he understood, but I could tell that he was still worried. And by the time we'd been on the road for an hour or so, I began to think that maybe he had been right. For Soja, our first red flag waved when we stopped at a Safeway just outside Greeley to buy pull-ups. Colton, who had been potty trained for more than 2 years, had tinkled in his underwear. It worried Soja that he didn't even protest when she laid him down in the back seat of the expedition and helped him into a pair of pull-ups. Under normal circumstances, he would have been enjoyed. I'm not a baby, now thought. He didn't utter a peep. Instead, once strapped back into his car seat, he only clutched his belly and moaned. 2 hours into the drive, he was crying constantly, stopping about every 30 minutes to throw up again. In the rearview mirror, I could see the heartbreak and helpless on Soja's face. Meanwhile, I tried to focus on the goal, get him to Imperial, get some IVs in him, stop the dehydration that surely must be setting in, and this flu ran its course. I reached Imperial in just under 3 hours. The hospital nurse took us back into the examination room pretty quickly, with Soja carrying Colton, cradling his head against her shoulder the way she had when he was infant. Within a few minutes, the doctor who had seen Colton on Friday joined us, and we brought him up to date on the situation. After the brief exam, he ordered blood tests and an x-ray, and I think I could take a breath for the first time since we rolled out Greenlee. This was progress. We were doing something in a short while. We would have a diagnosed, probably a prescription or two, and Colton would be on the way to recovery. We took Colton to the lab where he screened as a tech tried her best to find a vein. That was followed by x-rays that were better only because we convinced Colton that there were no needles involved. Within an hour, we were back in the exam room with the doctor. Could it be appendicitis? Soja asked the doctor. He shook his head. No, Colton's white blood cell count isn't consistent with appendicitis. We were concerned, thought about his x-rays. I looked at Soja, and it was that moment we realized we'd been banking on a really nasty virus. We were completely unimpaired for something more serious. The doctor led us into the hall where there was already an x-ray clipped to illuminator. When I saw what was in the picture, my heart dropped into my stomach. The x-ray of our son's tiny little stomach showed 3 dark masses. It looked for all the world as if his insides had exploded. Soja began shaking her head in tears, which had hovered just beneath the surface, spilled into her cheeks. Are you sure it's not appendicitis? I asked the doctor. There's a family history. Again, he said no. That's not what the blood test showed. Then what is it? I'm not sure, he said. I'm going to read chapter 5, and then that's going to be it for right now. I might read a few chapters later. Chapter 5, Shadow of Death. That was Monday, March 3rd. Nurses placed Colton in a room and inserted an IV, 2 bags dangled from the top of a stainless steel pole, one for hydration and one with antibiotics of some kind. Soja and I prayed together for Colton. Norma stopped by with Colton's favorite toy, his Spider-Man action figure. Normally his eyes would light up at the sight of either Norma or Spider-Man, but Colton didn't react at all. Later, our friend Terry brought Colton's best little buddy, her son Hunter, to visit. Again, Colton was unresponsive, almost lifeless. Sitting in a chair near Colton's bed, Norma looked at Soja grimly. I think you should take him to Children's Hospital in Denver. But at that point, we were trusting the doctor's confidence that everything was being done that could be done. Besides, Colton was in no condition to travel all the way back to Colorado. Colton continued to throw up. Soja held down the fort, comforting him, catching his vomit, while I drove home to check in on the rest of our lives. On the way, I stopped by the church to make sure the place hadn't burned down. I checked in with my garage door guys, returned some phone calls from new customers, and went out to a door repair job. The entire time I was away from the hospital, I sent up prayers. Even during my conversation with others, my prayers ascended a kind of metal background that would have been in the forehead. The only ground, if only life didn't have an annoying way of rolling on. Soja spent Monday nights in the hospital and I stayed home with Casey. On Tuesday mornings, I took her to school during the rest of the day between church and company responsibilities. I popped in and out of the hospital as often as I could, hoping for some improvement. Instead, each time I walked into Colton's room, I saw my little boy slipping deeper into the grip of whatever mysterious monster held him. Not only was he not getting better, he was getting worse fast. By the second afternoon, I saw something that terrified me, the shadow of death. I recognized it instantly as a passenger you sometimes find yourself on a death watch in a hospital, nursing home, a hospice. There are intelligent signs. The skin lucid and pinkness and fades to a jaundiced yellow. Breathing is labored. The eyes are open, but the person is not present. And almost telling of all the stinging and darkening around the eyes. I had been this look many times, but in a context where you might expect it in a patient suffering from terminal cancer or in the phases of old age. You know, that person on earth had come down to days, then hours, then minutes. I would be there to comfort the family, to pray with them. Prayers like, God, please take her soon. Please take her away, her pain. This time I was seeing the shadow of death again, and I was seeing it in my son. My not quite 4-year-old son. The sight hit me like a bullet. A voice screamed inside my head, we're not doing anything. I'm a pacer. I wore ruts in the floor. Colton room, crossing the tiny space again and again like a caged lion. My stomach turned inside my chest. An invisible vice squeezed my heart. He's getting worse. God, what do I do? While I paced, Soja channeled her anxiety into the role of busy caretaker. She fluffed Colton's pillow, arranged his blankets, made sure he was still drinking. It was a role she was filling to keep from exploding. Each time I looked at her, I could see the aggravation growing in her eyes. Our son was slipping away, and like me, she wanted to know what was wrong. The doctors would bring back test results, but no answers, only useless observations. He didn't seem to be responding to the medication. I don't know. I wish a surgeon would hear it. Soja and I wrestled with trust. We aren't doctors. We had no medical experience. I'm a pastor. She's a teacher. We wanted to trust. We wanted to believe the medical professions were doing everything that could be done. We kept thinking next time the doctor walks in, he'll have a new test result. He'll change the medication. He'll do something to get that look of death off our son, but he didn't, and there came a point when we had to draw the line. And that is the end of chapter 5. So, guys, a lot of stuff happened. I don't know how I feel about it. I hope this little boy is, hope he does good. I hope he doesn't die. Hope he gets better. Yeah. Well, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more videos. And, thank you for listening. Bye.